live. Right. So, welcome everybody. Lovely to see you all here. I'm sorry it was at such short notice, but delighted that we've got such wonderful speakers, in addition to Tom, who's going to enlighten us as regards the central theme, the central motif of this company that we've launched with the generous support of one of the speakers that we're going to have, Abdul Ghazar, who lives here close by. We're in St Thomas's Church Hall in Wells, and close by is of course Glastonbury, and this is where Abdul he lives with his wife Alison, and he's been involved in some wonderful interfaith work here. And as I say, we're very, very grateful to him for sponsoring the launch of this company, Knight Multimedia. So I just wanted to begin by saying a little bit about the philosophy, the thinking, the motivation, the rationale for the Green Knight concept. Why the Green Knight? What's it all about? What are we really talking about? And I think the best way to encapsulate the particular constellation of ideas that motivated the production of this company, and we have a website, and we'll be launching, publishing some books in the course of the year. The best way of encapsulating the philosophy underlying this project is the following quotation from one of our great teachers, Dr. Martin Lings, otherwise known as Sheikh Abu Bakr Sirajuddin, who died in 2005 at the age of 96. And he wrote as follows in the preface to his book entitled The Book of Certainty. Our aim is to express some of the universal truths which lie at the heart of all religions. And what Dr. Lings did in the considerable corpus of his writings is to express those truths that lie at the heart of all of the revealed religions and all of the inspired traditions throughout the life of humanity, from the very beginning to our own times. What he did is to express the primordial truths at the heart of the perennial philosophy and the practice of Sophia Perennis, which is something quite distinct but related to the doctrine. The actual practice of the Sophia Perennis, the perennial wisdom. He expressed those truths in the English language with an unsurpassable degree of eloquence, lyricism, profundity, and simplicity. And it was a particular gift that Dr. Lings had to express the most apparently difficult, complicated, but profound truths in a manner that was wonderfully accessible. And part of our aim, and I say ours, Abdul Ghazar, George Caravallis, who's been helping us on the financial and technical side, and Saqib Safdar, who can't be with us today, unfortunately. Part of what's driven us is to really try and represent the legacy of Dr. Lings and thereby the perennial philosophy in the English language, and with an emphasis on the audio aspect. We want to get these books on Audible. We want people to be able to hear podcasts on the themes of the perennial philosophy, comparative religion, the deeper aspects of the mystical path in the traditions, and to do this in a way that will be accessible on the internet, in the English language, through the spoken word, with the emphasis going back to tradition, as it were. We're trying to complete the circle. We started out at the sort of primordial beginning, where everything was sound, and then we've gone into the modern world and print and everything, and then we're into the postmodern world, where, curiously, there's extrême se touche, extremes meet, and we're able now to go back to the spoken word, using the internet and social media to convey through real human beings speaking. At least it's called virtual reality, but it's closer to actual reality than just reading a book. So in a certain way, this new medium can be used for, in a post-modern way, to actually go back to the pre-modern realities, to traditional realities and traditional ways of expressing these wonderful truths that have been given to all of us by the Almighty through all of our different traditions and cultures. So that, in a nutshell, is what we're all about. As I say, we want to publish in the course of the coming year 7 books, beginning with a book of aphorisms by Ali Lakhani, the editor of Sacred Web, then a book of poems by Barry MacDonald, an already published poet, but some new poems from him. Then there'll be 2 books by myself, articles that I've written over the years on Christian-Muslim dialogue. Those will come out in the form of books. And then a couple of translations from the French into English of books by Tayyib Choueirif, a very wonderful scholar and Sufi living in Lille in France. And I'd particularly like to get 2 of his books published in the English language. And we'll have those books read so that they can be listened to on the internet as well. So everything that we publish, we will also read out and have recorded on the internet for people to listen to. Insha'Allah. Then, yes, a poem. So, yes, I'd like to begin the session formally by reading 2 poems from the collection I just mentioned by Barry MacDonald. And the first, very appropriately, is a poem that he's dedicated to the memory of Martin Lings. And it's entitled, The Highest Ground. In this 11th hour, prophets warn. Delusion threatens like a rising storm. Now in the mind the devil spins a wheel. Few wise men concentrate upon the real. We walk in prayer and quietly pass by. Like ripples on a pool, we cannot stay. Why fear the shifting shadows of the day, when only in the dream of time we die? In this brief life, we seek to rise above, to stand upon the highest ground of love, leaving behind all sorrow and discord. The soul takes flight, remembering the Lord. That's a beautiful poem by Barry MacDonald, and one that well defines what we're all about. The second poem I'd like to read, and this is a little bit of an introduction to Guy Ogilvy, who is, let's say, both a theoretical alchemist who's written books on the subject, but he's also, dare I say, a practicing alchemist, and we're all benefiting from the radiance of the gold that he is always in the process of producing. Thank you very much, and for coming at such short notice, Guy. Really appreciate it. This poem is entitled The Alchemy by Barry MacDonald. Awakening in God, we live and die. The here below, seen through an eagle's eye. No matter what we suffer in this day, deep in the alchemy of truth, we pray. And through each trial our destiny reveals. We praise the fate that brings us to the real. Thank you very much, Barry, for sharing those poems with us. And now we'll start by, I'll just tell you a little bit about the format. I'm going to hand over to Emma Clark, who's going to introduce our speaker, our main speaker for today, Tom Bree. Emma is a world-renowned expert in Islamic gardens, and she's written on the subject, and she also teaches as senior lecturer at the Prince's School of Traditional Arts in London. So Emma will kindly introduce Tom for us, and after Tom Bree, who needs no introduction from me, Emma will tell you about him. After Tom's talk, we will go to Abdul Ghazar, who I've asked, again at very short notice, and I'm so grateful that you could do this. He's going to give us a 5 to 10 minute talk, maybe a bit longer, on Al-Khidr, the green man in Islam, upon whom Tom will touch briefly in his talk, but Abdul will fill out a few more details for us. And then after Abdul's talk, we'll go over to Guy, who will enlighten us on aspects of the colour green, the green man, no pun intended, and the green man in Celtic Christianity, but more with a focus on alchemy. So we're asking Guy to speak for anything between 5 minutes and 15, 20 minutes, whatever you feel comfortable with, Guy. And then after that, we will ask Christian Bakker to join us to compare the final session, which will be questions and answers, and she has a few questions for each of the speakers. Christian is famous as an MTV presenter in the 90s, and her famous book, From MTV to Mecca, is a book that I would recommend all of you to read. A wonderful story of how Christian left that world and entered into the world of Islam, and how she brought the best of that world into what she believes is a possible synthesis. And I agree with her that there are so many wonderful things about the philosophies and the deep emotions and the feelings that are being expressed by singers of our generation. And it's called popular music or this or that, but there's a great deal of meaning that can be gleaned from that, and the best of those insights can be incorporated within not so much a strictly religious framework, but in a metaphysical framework within which religion finds its place. And that MTV to Mecca is also a story about from MTV to metaphysics, if I may say so. So Christian will kindly compare the Q&A session, and that will go on for maybe 30 minutes, and that will be the end of our session for this afternoon. So on that note, I will then ask Emma to come and to introduce Tom for us.